Hi and welcome to another motoring magazine from the Men and Motors studio. This week, as well as features on the new Honda Prelude and Thunder saloons, we travel to Southern Ireland for the International Mini Rally near Cork and find out from Lord Montague as to why he's driving from Peking to Paris. Not in one day, I trust. But first, sometimes you get us to a stage in your life when you're blessed with a healthy bank balance and you're determined not to buy a run-of-the-mill vehicle. Yasmin Mills reports on a new development in the limousine market.
You may be thinking about buying the new Mercedes E-Class, or you may be after something a little bit different. You could be the first person on the block with one of these, if you can get it round the block, that is. But what do you think of this back end, boys? Come into my lair and find out. Think of a limousine, and you probably think of champagne-guzzling rock stars, rich businessmen being driven around by chauffeurs in luxury. But these days you don't have to be Liam Gallagher, royal, or even on your way to a wedding to enjoy the luxuries of a chauffeur-driven limo. Until now, your average British driver would not think of buying a limousine when looking for a family car. But now MJ Limousines of Surrey have come up with a production-built limousine which makes it practically affordable. Traditionally, limousines were saloon cars individually converted by small companies at a very high cost. From around £50,000, this production Mercedes limousine is on the market for the price of a top-of-the-range saloon. Will we see limos nose to tail on the M1 on a Friday evening? Will it become a realistic alternative to a people mover for large families? Surely it's much more fun drawing up to the supermarket in a limo. Every week I come out of the supermarket and I can't find my car, but today is different. I'm not looking for my tinny hatchback, I'm looking for my limo. Now, baby parking, disabled parking, limo parking, just what I need. Should be able to fit everything in here for a change. No problem. I have to shop like this from now on.
We identified a marketplace that wasn't being fed by any other particular manufacturer with a prestigious car like Mercedes-Benz, and got into developing a vehicle with a company called Jankel in Weybridge, and asked the customers what they really wanted, and from there we went out, designed and built MJ Limousines, or produced a company called MJ Limousines, and produced these limousines both in 4-door and 6-door version on the E-Class chassis from Mercedes-Benz.
Now, what makes this different from all the other limousines before it?
Well, traditionally limousines were hand-built. They were cut in half and a piece was welded into the roof and into the floor. This vehicle is actually built with a new one-piece pressed steel roof, which helps with the production of the vehicle. Not only that, but the rigidity of the vehicle, the strength of the vehicle, the overall longevity of the vehicle, in as much as sometimes with the hand-built vehicles you could see some sagging after a few years. This is impossible to happen with this vehicle.
And I understand before they were made individually, like commissioned car, one-off limousines, and this is a production vehicle.
That's quite right. In the past they were just one-off vehicles, and of course they were horrendously expensive because they were labour intense, there was so much labour involved in that. These are now built on a production line in Coventry with a full production team.
And apparently the bench seat, rather than a flimsy makeshift seat, there's a proper seat in this as well.
Yes, this vehicle comes in two variations. One is a 4-door, the one that we see here, and that's a conference style. The other one is a 6-door vehicle, and it has a bench seat in the middle, which is unique to our production of MJ Limousines, which has seat belts integrally made, and with a simple twist of a lever can be rolled up and stowed away, or so to giving you additional leg space.
And what about the price then? You mentioned that it was a lot more expensive previously to have a limousine made. What exactly is the difference between this price and the previous price?
Well, I really should say two things about the price of the vehicle. Firstly, with a 250 diesel version, it would start at something around £58,000 on the road and then can be built up accordingly. We're offering them in 250 diesel, 300 turbo diesel and E280 versions. But where this vehicle really scores is because it's built on a production line. If you break a window, if the vehicle has an accident, these parts are available from the shelf from a Mercedes-Benz dealer or from us the next day delivery, whereas in the past you would have had to order, and sometimes the vehicle would have been off the road for as many as 12 weeks while a new window or a new door was made. Because it's a production vehicle, downtime on the vehicle is just minimal.
There's also the question of driving these large sausage dogs on wheels. The more affordable limo will not necessarily be driven by people with chauffeurs. It could be a nightmare to be stuck behind a nervous limousine driver trying to negotiate a roundabout or do a U-turn in the high street on a Saturday afternoon. I've already noticed an increasing number of limos in the West End of London on any given evening. So maybe now you'll be tempted to buy one of these and you can pretend you're in America, where some limos are so big that the front end is registered in Texas and the back end is registered in Detroit.
Wow. Now, I can't imagine negotiating the local multi-storey car park would be much fun. One of the thoughts behind the design of the dear old Ford Transit van was to produce a vehicle which would carry the maximum load while remaining driver-friendly. Well, we report on a celebration of the new Transit.
We've come here to Althorpe House in Northamptonshire with around 30 vehicles so that journalists can drive them and touch and feel them and appreciate what we've done to them recently, because we have made some changes. The main reason why Transit's so popular is that it has evolved over the years. We've managed to refine it, I would dare say not to perfection, but as close to perfection as we can get it. And as a consequence, customers have a great deal of confidence in it because they know it and they understand it. And we've not introduced all new vehicles, which has taken them by surprise and asked them to take on board a completely new feature. There are many different types of Transits available, and in fact, in total, there are about 100,000 different variants, taking into account all the different options and models. But basically, there are buses, chassis cabs, and 3 different sizes of van. And they start at the top with our rather outlandish super van, which costs around £200,000 and would do 160 miles an hour. And they go down through the range to the smallest van, the cheapest van, which is would cost around £11,000. The vans vary in size from 6 cubic metres to 12 cubic metres, so there's a significant difference in there. Most of them have diesel engines, and they range from 70 horsepower to 100 horsepower, and their load length differs considerably with the 3 different load lengths, and we have 3 different roof heights as well. So there are many different combinations. The basic vehicles that come out of the factory are the 3 different sizes of van that are 3-seaters, passengers, 2 passengers and a driver, and then a load space at the back. 3 different sizes of bus, 12-seaters, 15-seaters and 17-seaters, and then chassis cabs. And the many variants that you see here today, like the ambulances, the mobile workshops, the mobile office that we're in here now, and the fire engines, a lot of those are based on the standard vehicles and converted by outside manufacturers.
We're here today just to catch up on what Ford's doing this year with its Transit range in particular, and with this 5-door Maverick. We've driven the 3-door version of this before in van form, but we haven't driven the 5-door, which is a longer wheelbase off-road. These courses are designed to show off how good these vehicles are off-road, especially in articulation, keeping all 4 wheels on the ground, and just how good they are taking downhill slopes, uphill, how good the engine copes with the terrain. The people who need vehicles like these are people like forestry workers, farmers, people who need 4-wheel drive but also need a carrying capacity. Most people don't make like commercial versions of off-roaders, but the manufacturers that do, this is up there with the best of them.
This particular vehicle is one of the latest 2 Transits that Ford have introduced. It's a Transit 190 long cube, and it's been designed as a long wheelbase van for carpet fitters and people who want to carry long objects, but they don't want the high roof because they don't carry volume. And that's the idea of it. The Ford strategy now is to produce a vehicle that is a van, but it's much more car-like, and all the features they're starting to introduce is achieving this. You've got a much better seating fabric, all the controls are very good. They've now put a new radio in with big buttons on so you don't have to fiddle around taking your eyes off the road. The whole ambience of the vehicle is accented towards a car driver, and it's so easy to drive. Well, I don't think it's got many major failings. Obviously Ford have got an ongoing development program, so they're sorting things out by operator clinics. The only thing I'm a little bit unsure with this van is they've added 2 armrests to the driver's seat. Now that's fine for long distance work when you can relax a little bit and you're just concentrating on steering the traffic, but they're a darn nuisance when you're in town because they do get in the way of your arm when you want a gear change. There are long wheelbase vans, but most of them don't offer it with a standard roof, so that with a long wheelbase you get a high roof, so people who want to carry weight but not volume would find that they're paying for something they don't necessarily need. So it's a good idea to bring in a van that can carry weight without necessarily dragging a lot of volume around, because high roofs inherently cut fuel consumption, because there's more to go through the air.
Our plans for the future are to refine the vehicle further and further and hopefully achieve yet further increases in sales. The name Transit's going to be with us for many, many years to come. I see no reason why we should be changing that. Of course we have a new vehicle on the drawing boards, as every manufacturer does, and it's not yet ready for production, and I think from what you can see today it's not really needed yet.
A salute to the Transit. There is actually a little-known variant of the Transit which, in effect, is an MPV called a Tornado. With the long summer holidays ahead of us, you may like to know that in the first week of August we've an MPV special. We'll feature every major MPV available in the UK and sort out the problems you may encounter along with the advantages of this new type of transport. After the break, we'll drive the new Honda Prelude. We'll see you very soon. Hi and welcome back. The old Honda Prelude was always a joy to drive with great sporting characteristics. Some practical aspects could have been better, however, like the rear seating space and general ergonomics. Ginny Buckley reports on the all-new Prelude that seems to address these shortfalls to produce a winning coupe.
If you're in the market for a new car, then it may well seem as if there's a bewildering choice out there. But you know, it's actually quite simple. What you need to do is buy the car that suits your needs. If you want to go off-road, you buy a Jeep. If you want safety, you buy a Volvo. You want to carry the family, then you need an MPV. And you want precision engineering, then it's got to be a BMW. So what car do you buy if you want to have fun? Well, I'll tell you the answer. You buy a coupe. And here's the latest coupe on the block, the all-new, all-singing, all-dancing Honda Prelude. Yep, it's the 5th generation of Honda Preludes, and this time round, Honda say they've made it a driver's car, one for the enthusiast. But they reckon they've also kept the emphasis on handling, performance and style. But remember, a coupe has to have that little something extra. A coupe should thrill you and fill you with excitement at the prospect of getting behind the wheel. It's the car that you've always dreamed about owning, if only it weren't for the family, the dog and those weekly shopping trips that you have to fit in. And this is where the Honda loses points. In terms of styling, it's just far too unadventurous. It's too much boy next door and not enough the one your mother always warned you about. Yes, the new Prelude may have more features, more space and more equipment than its predecessor, but its looks aren't quite as sexy as last time around. And in the world of coupe design, it's normally a case of those who dare to be different win. But, say Honda, their research tells them that their customers don't want anything too, well, flashy. So as customer loyalty is extremely high, Honda have beared all this in mind when designing the new Prelude. They produce something subtle, polite, a little bit conservative. Until you open the bonnet. And this is where the exciting bit starts. And exciting it certainly is, because once you look under the bonnet, you'll realise that the Honda is actually a bit of a beast. There's more technology packed into the new Prelude than your average space shuttle, and it certainly enables you to go like a rocket in it. Behind the wheel, the Honda is great fun to drive, and it more than lives up to every promise the advertising men will make. So what do you get for your money? Well, a 2.2 litre VTEC engine to start with. In English, VTEC stands for Variable Valve Timing Technology. To put it plainly, anything under 3,500 revs and the Prelude can certainly move, but it's nothing hair-raising. But once you get over that magic mark, it's a totally different sensation. The variable cams deliver terrific punch, and the engine makes use of every single one of its 185 brake horsepower. All this is accompanied by a terrific sound from the exhaust. All in all, a very satisfying experience. And that technology? Well, it goes on and on.
The name Prelude is because we use it as a car to introduce new technology into the Honda range. So new technology comes on Prelude first and then is dissipated throughout the Honda range. So yes, it has four-wheel steer, which means that at high speed the wheels turn in the same direction for safe overtaking. But at low speed, when you're parking the car, they go in opposite directions, so you have a smaller turning circle. Very simple, very clever technology. We've got the sequential sport shift gearboxes, a semi-automatic gearbox, all coming in. So yes, it is brimming with good driving and modern advanced technology, as you'd expect.
How will your man in the street, that buys the Prelude, what does it feel? What are the benefits to him behind the wheel?
You get very predictable driving characteristics. So time in, time out, you get very predictable, safe driving characteristics. It's fast. It takes off from stationary very, very quickly. It corners superbly like it's on rails, and very predictable. And therefore, it's a safe car to drive. One of the things that we've designed into the Prelude, while it's a bigger car than the previous one, we've taken out weight out of the car. So the ABS unit has dropped from something like 9 kilograms to 2.5 kilograms. The engine, we've put silicon into it, so it's a stronger, stiffer metal, but lighter. And all this sort of goes in to make the car lighter, so that whilst the car looks a lot bigger than the previous Prelude, it's only about 1 kilogram heavier. And then again, you maintain that driving characteristics of the car.
Honda as a company have been criticised for styling that's not too exciting and that's sort of errs on the conservative side, and particularly with the Prelude, traditional coupes are quite dramatic. How do you respond to those kind of comments?
When we developed the new Prelude from replacing the older version, we went and talked to our customer base. What were the concerns that they had about the old Prelude? And this big one that came out was very cramped load carrying capacities, very small boot, and they couldn't really get children in the back of the car. And we've addressed that with the new Prelude. So I can sit in the back, and I'm over 6 foot, and you can get 2 sets of golf clubs in the boot. So it's a car that you can use. There's much more capacity to it.
Who's going to buy the Prelude?
Someone that wants an exciting sports car to drive, wants the flexibility of the car, and really is a keen, enthusiastic driver. Appreciates the technology, wants the reliability, likes the technology, and that'll be our target audience.
You may have noticed a little badge on the back of our test version of the Prelude that says Type S. Now this is a special version that at the moment is only available in Japan. Instead of the 4-wheel steering, it features a new development, ATTS, Automatic Torque Transfer System. Sounds complicated, but what does it actually do?
Type S, and I should say, Type S is a car which we haven't launched yet in the UK, and we plan to launch later in the autumn through to the winter. Type S has new technology on it. The best way of describing it is that if you go round a corner in many cars, if it feels a difference in the grip between the inside wheel and the outside wheel at the front, often they'll slow down the power on the inside wheel. What the Type S does is it actually speeds up the outside wheel. Now I'll give you an example of the benefits of it. It might be slightly easier to explain. If you're going around a corner and in a normal conventional car you put your foot on the accelerator, you will slide out. Yeah? And if you take your foot off the accelerator when you're in a tight corner, you'll pull in. With ATTS, because it calculates all this and it sort of compensates for any ham-fisted accelerating operators, the car just glides around the corner and doesn't move at all. Totally predictable, totally safe, fast motoring.
If you've decided that the new Prelude is the car for you, then it may not be a bad idea to wait until ATTS is available here in this country, because the improvement you feel in the handling and traction control are absolutely staggering. Honda once again proving that what they may occasionally lack in design flair, they more than make up for in engineering excellence. The internal styling on the Prelude is pretty unadventurous. It has a very macho 80s feel to it and features black, and more black. But having said that, everything inside the cabin is well laid out and functional. The low-slung driving position feels very natural and comfortable. Our test version featured a superb sound system that's as state-of-the-art as the rest of the car. You can operate it manually, or from the steering wheel column, or maybe by its unique voice-operated control pad. Another great option to think about is a semi-automatic gearbox. Tap the gear stick towards you and it moves from automatic and becomes a manual with a sequential gear change. It's great fun because it gives you so much control over your acceleration. I have to say that if the Honda Prelude were a Spice Girl, then it would be known as Sensible Spice. But you know, there's a lot of truth in the saying that the quiet ones are often the worst. Because when you get the VTI out onto the open road, you find that you've got a car that's actually pretty wild at heart and more than capable of having plenty of fun.
The new Honda Prelude, yet another in a crowded market. It all adds up to great news for coupe buyers. Now, if you had a title, were very comfortably off, already had an interesting and varied life, and you'd driven virtually every car on every route, would you choose to enter the Peking to Paris challenge? Well, if your name is Lord Montague, the answer is most definitely yes.
Will you be going for summer this year? Will you be on a beach somewhere, or will you be going for something a bit more adventurous? Well, the most adventurous holiday you can have anywhere this summer, bar none, even more exciting than the Camel Trophy, is going to be the 1997 Peking to Paris Motor Challenge. One of those fortunate enough to be going on it is Lord Montague Bewley. Lord Montague, tell me more about the run.
Well, the run is the 90th anniversary celebrations of the original race of 1907, which went all the way from Brittain to Paris. It was won by an Italian car in Italia with Prince Borghese. And that was really an amazing adventure for the early motorists. Now this is being really commemorated by about 100 cars going the same route dating from sort of this date, 1915, up to 1966. There's been many attempts to recreate this run over the years. At long last, it's got going. It's going to be a wonderful adventure, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Tell me why you chose this car out of the many in the Motor Museum you could have taken.
Well, I wanted to choose a car which was, I think, as characteristic as possible to 1907. And this is a very remarkable, really Britain's first sports car, Prince Henry Vauxhall, which did very well in the Alpine Trials of 1912, named after Prince Henry of Prussia. And it's a car which has got good ground clearance, it's quite speedy, and quite easy to repair in a sense. It isn't like a fuel-injected Aston Martin, which I don't think the Indians at the side of the road will quite understand. But I think that the very clever Indian mechanics and people in the Far East will understand a car like this that needs repairing. But in any case, I'm taking my chief mechanic with me, so I hope I won't have to use them.
I'm standing in the workshops of the National Motor Museum at Beaulieu, talking to Doug Hill, Chief Engineer. Doug, you must be the most envied person at Beaulieu after Lord Montague.
Well, some people think so. It's a bit of a complicated job at times.
Tell me, you must be really excited about the run. What's going to be the best bit for you?
I don't know about excited or nervous, a bit of both really. Most interesting bit for me is going to be getting this car to the finish. That's going to be my whole time occupation.
You've put a lot of time and effort in on the car so far. Tell me some of the things that need doing.
Well, for a start, we've got to do 350 miles between fuel stops, so we had to fit a long-range fuel tank into it, so that had to feed into another fuel system. That meant the disposal of the air system for pressurising the fuel tanks. We had to put electric fuel tanks on, luggage rack, luggage box, a new set of wheels with well-based rims and larger section tyres, uprated the cooling system, fitted a modern carburettor so it can operate at 17,600 feet, make that so it's an easy changeable unit so we can run most of the time on the original unit, trip computer, alternator to uprate the charging system, modern electric headlamp units in these headlights, shock absorbers all round, extra suspension leaves, new gears, new main shafts in the gearbox, new prop shaft, new UJs, new clutch mainspring, and just a few jobs.
Not much at all, really. Does it still drive like a 1915 car?
I would say no, because the wheels and the suspension now make it drive like about a 1925 car. We've sort of jumped 10 years in its technology just by fitting the shock absorbers, really.
Of course, this isn't the first major tour that you've been on with cars in the museum, is it? Tell me some of the others.
Well, I suppose one of the most adventures was across Australia, from Perth to Canberra, across the Nullarbor Plain. We went to Rolls-Royce that time. I've driven from all the way mostly through eastern Canada, around New Zealand a couple of times. So they've always been very enjoyable. I certainly wouldn't miss this one for anything.
So that's the Peking to Paris. I'm ever so jealous. Look, Doug, if you feel a bit queasy on the day, I've got a bit here. I could probably rustle up a few more. You interested?
I'll give you a ring and let you know, all right?
Yes, a man whose love of motors will live with us forever. Steve Vokins, our Beaulieu correspondent, will be back in future weeks with more news from the National Motor Museum. Well, after the break, we'll sail to the Emerald Isle to join some mini fanatics, so we'll see you very soon. Hello again and welcome back to Four Wheels Good. Each year the International Mini Club selects a country to hold its rally, and this year Southern Ireland won the honour. We accepted an invitation from the Irish Tourist Board to sample their renowned hospitality and to meet some of the mini fanatics.
This week, Four Wheels Good leaves the mainland shores of England and heads for Bandon near Cork in Southern Ireland. We've come to this beautiful country for the International Mini Meeting.
Ireland went in actually very unprepared for the bid, in a sense. Went in, just said, we're having a big party in Ireland in 1997, if you want to come, come, and they won the bid. So this is 2 years later. We're now sitting in the middle of Bandon and Cork in Ireland. Around us is about 1,000 people, 600 minis, and I can honestly say no two the same. The atmosphere is electric. The town is electric. Everybody's electric. Why we do this? There's over 200 mini clubs in the world. Yeah?
At least.
At least 200. And we all share one thing: enthusiasm for the Mini in all its shapes or forms.
The cars are small, they're very manoeuvrable, and they're great fun to drive. So young drivers enjoy doing them. They're a very physical car to drive. There are no frills, no electric windows unless you fit them. There's no power steering. There's nothing to help you on your way. So it's a fantastic car to learn to drive in. And they can also be incredibly heavily modified very cheaply. We've had daytime events, but we've been very restricted. The insurance companies in this country have refused to allow us to do motoring events.
The public have been a great interest in minis from the public, so we actually brought several, I'd say about 50 cars actually out into the best 50, down into the town, parked them in a car park, and I would estimate 5,000 to 6,000 people came through in less than 2 hours to see all these cars.
This is my car. It's a Mini Cooper 35 Special Anniversary Edition. We came here to enter it in the concours as well as coming with the club here. We've all come from Perth. It's been a very long journey, at least 500 miles for most of us. We had to travel down to Holyhead and get the ferry across to Dublin and drive down from there to here, so it took us near enough the best part of a whole day, if not more, just to get here. But this is my car. Special edition. There's only been 200 of these made. We were lucky enough to get one. We actually bought it up in Scotland. We've heard that a lot of them have been exported. I don't know if that's actually true, but we know that there's only 200 of them around today. Everything that's on the car, most of it anyways, comes standard with the car, the leather interior and everything. We like entering the concours. Unfortunately we didn't do so well this time, but some you win, some you lose.
Later, Nicola Donaldson discovered that she had actually won first prize in the concours event.
This is a 1971 Mini 1000 that I restored between 1992 and 94. I've spent approximately £2,000 on it and many hours, as you can imagine. Car's been fully restored, bodily, the usual Mini places, wings, sills, boot floor. It's the original colour. Car was a one owner from new. I've got full history. The interior is a standard. A few period modifications are the Cooper wheels and the overriders. I've tried to keep the car as standard as possible and the quality of my rebuild as long as possible.
Being a private function, as you can imagine, we have to control access, so this was a chance for them to actually see it, and they absolutely loved it. During the day, if you look at the perimeter, you see people looking over with long lenses, photographing cars as best they can from those areas. They're standing at the gates watching them go in and out. The Mini has really grabbed this town. From point of view of the town itself, the restaurants, the shops, everybody has responded immensely. They couldn't be better. They really have arisen to this occasion, giving us carte blanche basically on everything. Traffic lights have been turned off. We've caused mayhem.
And I'm Richard Porter, I'm the membership secretary of the Mini Marcos Owners Club, and we're participating in the International Mini meeting because we're regarded as minis, although as you can see the car's a little bit different from a standard Mini. It has a fiberglass monocoque body which just accommodates the Mini subframes at the front and back, and it's a little bit lighter than the Mini and a little bit less frontal area, so it goes quite well. This is a Mark V car which was built by Marcos in Bradford in Westbury in Wiltshire in 1991. They first came out in about 1965 and competed at Le Mans in 1966 when a Mini Marcos was the only British car to complete the race. As you can see, it's a two-seater, although it was advertised as a 2+2. You can have a child seat in the back, but there's not very much room there. And because you're sitting low down, the seat is well back and you can lower the steering column a little bit.
This is my little 850, it's my first car, and I've sort of been rebuilding it over the last 7 years, and where I go around the country and around the world in it to mini shows. As you can see, it needs a lot of work doing it still, but I'm dead chuffed with it because it's all mine.
The weather has arrived at last. As you know, the first couple of days were a bit iffy and butty, bit of drizzle and that, but the ground has held up, everything's gone well, people have followed the rules, and that's what makes it very, very good. Access for ambulances, everything, as you can see, people think of their own safety as well as everybody else's here. There's no such thing as you're you and I'm me. We're all together in this. There's no politics here and nothing like that. Borders, everything go out the window here when you come to a meeting like this. Everyone just gets in, parties together.
Well, after this enjoyable but tiring weekend filled with atmosphere, the International Mini Meeting at Bandon near Cork in Southern Ireland draws to a close. With a morning of nursing hangovers and rubbing tired feet, there's just time to catch a last glimpse of these international minis in the sunshine. And now that the beer has all but gone, there's nothing to do but pack away and wait for next year's event in Finland. As for the organisers, they have a lot to do before this school hall is handed back to the children. All they can do is watch and wait.
Yes, a beautiful country, a great setting for those classic minis. And if you're holding a rally soon you'd like us to visit, please write to us here at Granada Television. Our address is 4 Wheels Good, the Men and Motors channel, Granada TV, Key Street, Manchester, M60 9EA. Right, a quick breather and then more from 4 Wheels Good after this break. Hello and welcome back to 4 Wheels Good. Now, these days there are so many definitions of vehicles: estate, coupe, MPV, saloon. But here's a new one for you, the Thunder Saloon.
It's early Saturday morning at the racetrack. The venue, Alton Park, Cheshire, the fastest track north of Watford. The star of the meeting, the Thunder Saloons, Britain's fastest saloon cars, the wild offspring of your everyday family car. Big and brash, they reach speeds of 180 miles an hour, so anything under 2-litre engine capacity can forget it. This race is for the big boys. Most Thunder Saloons do about 2 miles to the gallon. That's less than a lap per gallon here at Alton Park. Running up their debts we found in the Ford Escort Cosworth family man Gary Ward, and a couple of likely lads in their Toyota Supra V8, Hugh and Simon. They're here, along with 10 others, to take on Pete Stevens, defending champion, in his Vauxhall Carlton.
I mean, we've been in the racing game now 20 years and we've been lucky that we have had the breaks and we've got sponsors like Mobil, Certec and Dunlop. But it's what we've worked for. I think the lads who help me, they do it all free of charge. You know, it's not that I pay them fantastic wages or anything. We're just keen and we want to win. But some of the cars out here today, they're a lot more expensive and I'm sure just as much effort goes into preparing those cars as what we put into our car.
So it's down to driver ability then?
Obviously, I'm merely the monkey behind the wheel. It's preparation.
With modesty like that, who needs sponsors? Well, Hugh and Simon do. They usually have a whip round for petrol money. Where will you be on the grids?
I think we're about 9th on the grid, aren't we? But it's going to be very difficult to keep pace with any of them, with missing the one gear that we really need round here.
How soul-destroying is that when you come all this way and put all the effort and money into it?
Well, I suppose that's the reason we're going to give it a crack. You know, it's even worse when you have to put the thing back on the trailer before you actually get out. So as long as it holds together, we're going to do the best we can to finish.
Gary Ward takes thunder sallooning more seriously, and so does the family.
Brought up two nice boys because I've given them interest early in life, from the age of 13. One of them didn't want to drive competitively, the other one does, and it's all done as a family, and it's done as a family thing right from the start.
With costs probably around £35,000 and the current business climate where sponsors are hard to come by, today's £5,000 prize money could come in handy. After the practice, Gary was 8th on the grid, so he had a lot of pedal work to do. Hugh and Simon had broken the piggy bank to buy a new set of wheels that morning, so they were on for nothing less than a win. But Pete Stevens won't give up so easily. Gary was looking hopeful, coping steadily, and after 3 laps he'd begun to creep up by 2 positions. After gaining those 2 positions, Gary began to slip, losing speed, and neither he nor Simon were able to advance on Pete Stevens, leaving a comfortable first race for Pete.
Well, there you go, that's the way to spend your weekend. Well, the show's almost over, but if you've been following our Inside Motors feature, you may well have your engine in bits, awaiting instruction on how to replace your head gasket. Well, let John Wright put you out of your misery.
Right, this Ford Fiesta's come in with an absolutely classic head gasket problem. It overheated on the motorway when the lady was driving it. It's losing water because, look, come and have a look at this. 2 weeks ago we put a level mark on the water just to see whether it was losing any, and it is. It's losing a significant amount of water. It's also doing an absolutely classic thing. It's mixing oil and water. With those 3 symptoms, the overheating on the motorway, the loss of water, the emulsifying of the oil, bob on, absolutely classic head gasket failure. Right, now we're going to fix it. Right, let's see what else has to come off. These water pipes have to come off, and the exhaust, and that water pipe. I think that's about it. Yeah. Right, let's get rid of some of that stuff. A good squirt of WD-40. I'll sort that lot out. Right, we've got a little bit of a problem with stuck Jubilee clip. 2 ways of cure it. We either cut it off or we try the other end. I think we'll try the other end. We just follow the pipe down, and it's actually nice and hidden under there. Let's give it a bit of squirt first. See if that works its magic first. I got it, lovely. Saved a bit of money on Jubilee clips, that. There we go. Right, and because we've emptied the radiator, there's not a lot of water comes out of that one. If we hadn't emptied the radiator, we'd be flooded now. Right, I'm going to have to do some grovelling now. There are 3 bolts that hold the exhaust on, and they're up there. We'll just give a bit of squirt first with WD-40. Mechanic's friend. I don't know what we do without it. Right, get the right socket and get them off. Unfortunately, this is the grovelly side of the job. Just taking a little bit of care not to damage this device here, which is the lambda sensor, which helps run the fuel injection. Also, while we're under, you might as well notice that this is a modern car. It's fitted with a pussycat, or catalytic converter. The Jubilee clips don't come as standard, but that plate's dropped off, and we've had to put the Jubilee clip on to stop it rattling. Because one of the things that you can't do is weld catalytic converters. They don't like it. And one of the things you should not be doing at all is putting cheap oil in with a catalytic converter. Right, we've got that free. That pipe's eventually come free. That one's free. Just one more there. And the thing that I always forget, the earth strap. Right, just found another little electrical plug underneath. Of course, what you're watching here is a completely edited version of what we're doing. The actual job will probably take you about 2.5 to 3 hours. If you haven't done one before, always refer to the manual. I find it's a good idea actually if you read the manual the night before, and then you can leave it propped up in the garage and just keep referring to it back and forward. Do one job, go back to the manual, do the next. And a lot of the manuals you can buy these days give you a step-by-step guide of how these jobs should be done. They're really very, very informative, easy to read, and they're great to use. I mean, I've been working in this trade for probably 10 to 12 years. I still read the books. Wife thinks they're very boring bedtime reading, but I find them absolutely fascinating.
Fantastic. You know, it's so satisfying seeing somebody else work. Well, there'll be more from Mr. Wright next week. And that's all for this show. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget, if you have a friend or neighbour who's recently been switched on to cable or satellite, tell them we're here each and every week on the Men and Motors channel. From all of us here, goodbye.